David Morgan of the Morgan Report. David, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing quite well. Thank you, Alan.
Bright and early out there in Washington State. That's where you are today, right?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, David, we're sitting here. Let's talk about silver briefly, and then we'll switch gears and move on down the road. We're right at $19.66 the ounce. It looks like that key reversal of about 3 weeks ago is holding. What do you think is going to happen with the silver market in the near term?
I think we're going to continue to trade in a pretty narrow range and build this base. We've been about 1950 or higher ever since the key reversal, and I fully expect that trend to continue. I don't see it doing anything particularly interesting, either way, up or down for probably a few more weeks, probably through the end of August, really. August is historically the best time to buy gold. Late July into August, usually for silver. So seasonalities appear to be working this year as far as when to buy.
David, we're in an environment right now where the silver market should just be exploding, in my opinion, based on all the money printing, and yet it is not. What do you attribute that to?
Well, it's a long story, but the money printing obviously is there. If you look at the monetary base or base money, as it's called, we're at about $3 trillion. But the problem is it's not circulating. So it's as if all that money was printed up and everyone that has it has stuffed it under their mattress. So it's as if it hasn't had any effect. And you see that, in part of the precious metals pricing. Obviously, there's other factors to consider, but that's one, is the velocity of money is so low. And until that money starts to move, you're really not going to see the effects of all that money printing. So that's number one. Number two is the psychology. The psychology has really been hammered over the last couple of years in this long consolidation. Psychologically, a lot of the big hedge funds have given up on the precious metals and moved into the stock market. That's where the action is. These guys don't have allegiance to any philosophy. They're looking for whatever's moving. They're going to jump on it. So now you have a lot of money that's moved out of the paper market into the stock market, which is, of course, paper market mostly. And then the positive side is if you look at what's happening on a global basis, you've just got the Asian market exploding for physical gold. And India as well. India is basically putting up these roadblocks to buy physical. They're putting these taxes on their people because they really want to quell this upsurge in buying physical metal. So certainly the game is far from over. The overall trend is bullish, but if you look at the price action only based on the paper bugs and their ability to make these derivatives control the price, you're going to probably see it languish for some more time.
Do you think people are manipulating the silver market?
Well, it's a long story on my end, but yes, it's been manipulated. I don't think they're in there every single day like some of my peers do. But you can't manipulate the overall trend. The overall trend has been up for several years. Yes, we've had a 2-year consolidation, but the bull market's far from over. If you just draw a simple bottom to bottom to bottom in either the gold chart or the silver chart, you see the overall trend is still up. And this is very similar to what happened in the 1980s bull market, where we saw gold go from 35 to about 200 down to 100, and then from 100 up to 850. And I think we're near that 100 equivalent, which is roughly under the 1,300 level that we hit not that long ago. And yet a lot of people, don't understand that this is still could be, and as far as I'm concerned, absolutely is, a bull market. Many are, again, psychologically convinced that the bull market's over. The bull market doesn't end the way this one has as far as the last 2-year consolidation. A bull market ends when gold is on the front page of Time Magazine, Newsweek, the New York Times, and everything else. In other words, bull markets end with a huge rush into that asset class. That did not take place. And so I still think, again, that we've got a long ways to go. But as far as getting there quickly or it's, going to happen week after next, no, I don't see that. We still have some base building to do, and we're going to have to, grow our way up, and we've got overhead resistance like crazy now. We've got 2 years worth of overhead resistance in both the metals. Those will be worked off over time, but it's not going to be, again, something that I think shoots up. Now, I do have to cover myself, and I hate to do this, but it's part of my job. If there is an anomaly, a black swan out there that takes place, like a non-delivery of a massive amount of gold or some problem that we can't foresee or forecast, then certainly we could get some, 3 or 4 up-limit days all in a row, and suddenly gold and silver are on fire, and forget what I just said. In other words, it could take off, but that's not very probable.
David, let's talk briefly about the Morgan Report. I know you have a couple layers or levels of the Morgan Report. Let's start with the freebie and move on from there briefly.
Sure. If you want to get on our free once-a-week list, just go to themorganreport.com. Go scroll down to the bottom. You got to give us one email, and we verify it, and you're all done. The basic level is just a monthly newsletter. The next level up is a monthly newsletter, and my commentary using charts or videos. We do a lot of videos that you get for the next level up. So if you're not even interested in timing, but interested in like our interviews with mining companies, some of the trips that one of the staff does or myself, that's included in the Basic Plus service. And then lastly, we have a mastermind series, and that's for very sophisticated investors, high net worth people, or hedge funds. Those type of people are looking for kind of the inside track and want very close access to me and my thinking. So those are the 3 levels of service.
Okay, David, what do you think is going to be the ultimate result of all of this money printing by the Federal Reserve?
Well, no one knows the ultimate result as far as the specifics, but we all know it doesn't end well. This is the history of money. Whenever you go on a dishonest system, it doesn't end well. You can look at the Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire. You can look at several places across the globe throughout history, and these things end badly. So we have a global system now. It's basically all based on the petrodollar, and as that is failing, and once the ability to buy oil outside of the U.S. dollar takes hold and is recognized by other nation states, it's basically over for the U.S. dollar. So when that happens, you're going to see a lot take place probably in a fairly short amount of time. And this, again, will not be well. You'll see, basically, I can tell you the general trend. You see what we've already seen continue. A lowering of the standard of living in the West and an increase in the standard of living in the East. And you will see a lot of things that we take for granted today not be there anymore. You're just not going to see cheap energy. You're not going to see easy credit, which, of course, we haven't seen for the last few years, really since the 2008 crisis. And basically you're going to start to see that the kids that are, children of the baby boomers or grandkids are not going to have a higher lifestyle than their parents. It's just not going to be that way. And you're not going to see this wage push price inflation that we had in the 70s where everybody gets a cost of living adjustment to their wages. That's not happening. China's out there. India's out there. And so you're going to see an increase in costs and a lowering of the average wage, and you're going to see a lowering of the standard of living. It's going to be like that. I don't see the end of the world. I don't see a zombie apocalypse. But I see a huge adjustment over time, and hopefully, not a lot of bad stuff happening. Not that I rule that out. Certainly it could take place.
David Morgan of the Morgan Report. David, it flies by, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Thanks for the interview.
All right. It's always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week. This is Alan Butler, Butler on Business. We'll be back with Mr. Shane Coley on the other side of the break. See you shortly.